And we're live. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Prime Minister's Questions Response stream. Today's subjects are, of course, the coronavirus. Yes, intentional mispronunciation after seeing the hashtag that's trending, minus the A. Lol. And, of course, Priti Patel, who is, while backed by the government, more information is coming out from her previous job in a different department of the government that has come back to bite her on the backside, which include financial settlements and other related issues. Hello, Cyrene and Yorkshire Tom. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday. This shouldn't be the most complicated stream because it all comes down to what the government's doing and is it enough. Oh, and there are one or two things Corbyn says that I agree with. Hello, Miashka? Miashka? Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Hello. Hope you're well. Let us switch tabs. I'm on the wrong tab. Oh, there's the video. We're going to go straight into this. That. Boom. Okay. Why is that so far along? Look at that. It's like 21 minutes in. I'm confused. Okay, well then we're going to go all the way back to the start. Why have you... Okay. Hello, Karma, Tiana, and Ian Houston. Hope you're all well. I dragged it back to the start. You don't go back to 21 minutes. Let's turn that up a little. I know what we need to do first. There's one other thing I need to do very quickly. I have to go and get the correct source. Yes. Okay. Let's go.
To Prime Minister's questions. Number one, Richard Graham.
Number one, sir.
Very important question. Hello, Fire Cupcake again. Dun dun dun. Indeed. Yes, let's carry on. I only, by the way, sometimes will have to randomly pause. I don't want a copyright strike or copyright claim from global media. Hello, Prospero.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is now 2 years to the day since a chemical weapon was deployed by Russian military intelligence on the streets of Salisbury.
Did they ever prove that? Because if memory serves, Corbyn wanted us to send a sample to Russia for confirmation. We said it did come from Russia, but there actually wasn't enough proof to confirm that. Although I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But of course the Russians bad anyway, so screw it, let's just blame them.
All our thoughts remain with those affected, their families and loved ones. We will continue to seek justice for them. But I'm pleased to say that 2 years on, Salisbury is back on its feet, focused firmly on the future and welcoming visitors with open arms.
What's Salisbury most famous for beside the Novichok thing? Oh, what is it? Something heavily laden in the past. But let's just plan for the future anyway. Doesn't matter. If memory serves, I still don't believe they did find anything that could in fact conclusively prove it was Russian. In fact, if memory serves again, didn't they manage to prove it came from a UK place or something? Or a factory or installation in continental Europe and not Russia?
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure this House will want to pay tribute to the people of Salisbury and Amesbury and wish them well for the future. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Richard Graham.
As the government prepares the nation for the worst of coronavirus while working for the best, now is the time to wash our hands and pull together. So does the Prime Minister agree that we need a robust plan in place to cover any significant cash flow losses of businesses so that employees and their mortgages, rents and benefits will still be paid?
Before he does this, people have seen the videos and the pictures of it. In the attempt to negate this coronavirus, yes, mispronunciation again because of that damn hashtag. They've been wearing plastic bags over their heads. Death toll will rise, but it won't be because of the coronavirus. It'll be entirely because of natural selection. And as serious as the coronavirus is, and I have to draw on history here. The panic and hysteria is astonishing. Does everyone remember SARS? Does everyone remember the norovirus? Does everyone remember foot and mouth? Do I need to go back any further through any other one where there was mass panic and it was entirely pointless? I'm not saying we shouldn't take it seriously, but the panic part is insane. I went to my pharmacy today to pick up a prescription, and no lie, they had to actually put a sign on the door that says hand sanitizers out of stock. And I'd asked, somebody had come in and bought all of it. And I'm like, what? What? Why? What do you think the hand sanitizer is going to do to up your chances? The government's idea is potentially just have everyone stay in their houses to prevent the spread. Because we don't all breathe the same air after all. But keeping it in a house stops it from getting through cracks in doors, windows, letterboxes, and, just through anything. Perhaps up your chimney. You never know. Genius.
Will the Treasury consider delaying, if need be, VAT and PAYE collection? And does the Prime Minister agree with me that, come what may, as we saw during the devastating floods in Gloucester of 2000...
You mean God's work, because it was against the gays.
2007 and elsewhere recently, that Britain will find the strength, perhaps aided by a cup of not necessarily Yorkshire tea, to pull through.
Right, so that was a sly dig at the fact that people were trying to cancel Yorkshire tea because the Chancellor of the Exchequer posed implying he was making cups of tea for his team, which I doubt he knows how to. I'm sure he got his butler to do it, or his wife's butler, since she's the one that's a billionaire. As far as, and it's written quite rightly, you're all quite right, the problem lies with people believing pandemic means everyone's going to die. There are, 85 cases or something stupid. There was a very low number of cases in the UK, and when my sisters were talking about it earlier, the first thought came to my head was, we have a population of 65 million, and people are freaking out over how many again? Oh, but they'll all catch it. Right. Is this like the norovirus again? Because I remember people sneezing in my face and I was fine, okay? I did slap somebody for it, but I was fine. And my dad learnt his lesson. I don't see the point in panicking. I don't care enough. If you get sick, you get sick. Trust medical officials and researchers to find a cure. Please stop panicking. It's pathetic. Take it seriously, sure, but honestly. The Yeah, I'm just going to give up trying to pronounce that. Aerosolization, thank you. That, actually, I got there eventually. Is the problem in apartment condo style homes. Yeah, London must love that. And obviously, seaside resorts have a few of those problems too. I just don't see a reason to panic. And minus the sly little dig here and there from that question, it's just a typical plant question. Hey, Dibs, oh, look at that. You got a wrench on this channel, which means Disconar can't get you, although I think you might be streaming anyway, so you're safe. Yeah, it does have a longer... I know about this. Again, the plastic bags and buckets on people's heads, honestly. If people then start to attribute the death toll to the coronavirus, yeah, those numbers are inflated at that point. Although I would love to see how many people went to hospital with a burst eye vessel, blood vessel in the eye, or from a lack of oxygen.
Well, my right honourable friend is entirely right. We're, of course, monitoring the situation closely and are prepared to support individuals.
Oh, and this question was in reference to employment and people who may lose pay due to being sent home from work. Sorry, I thought I'd just, do that.
Individuals, businesses and the economy to maintain economic confidence, quite rightly, and our action plan, our battle plan, points to mitigations that already exist.
Battle plan? Oh, that's so cringe. That's almost as cringe as Irate Alex's video yesterday.
Such as HMRC's time to pay, which is there on a case-by-case basis to support firms struggling with payments.
The opposition, Jeremy Corbyn. Thank you.
There is a worry, and it's come from the Bank of England, that there will have to be a bailout to businesses because of the panic. I firmly believe hysteria does nothing for anyone. It doesn't really help. It just I don't know, increases the sales of alcohol and drugs for people to find a means to calm down. Or possibly a bat, whichever achieves the goal quickest. And yes, I'm well aware of what I just said. I meant the one you swing, not the one you dunk in your soup.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will join me in congratulating the Prime Minister and his partner on the news that they're expecting a baby. And I also join the Prime Minister in wishing the people of Salisbury well. It's a wonderful city. I've visited it many times. And, of course, what happened to them was utterly appalling, and their safety and security is paramount for all of us. I also want to pay tribute...
To answer Dibula, Corbyn will be in office until April 4th. I thought it was today. I was a month off.
all the medical staff and indeed experts...
And if Prospero gives up her whiskey, I may have to get her tested.
Public servants here and overseas who are doing the vital work to combat the spread of coronavirus.
Never give up
and
your
looking
whiskey.
after those affected. Yesterday, our part-time Prime Minister finally published the steps that his government will take to tackle the outbreak of the disease.
Terrifying, isn't it? I mean, he had to make a public statement on this. Who was it? It was Patriarch of the Sith mentioned that the US scientists have already managed to sequence it. That's a huge step. I'll be honest, we probably would have been on this sooner, and I have to point a finger here because I don't like blaming. But for the sake of it, China, what are you doing? Something's actually wrong, and you wouldn't share the information. Are you mad? Fucking bonkers at this point. I like that word. I might use that more often. Bonkers. Yes.
And the strategy broadly has our support. But a decade of Tory austerity means...
Don't blame austerity, for God's sake. Yet again, stop it. Bushmills isn't too bad, Stephen. I will say Bushmills is okay. I quite like a Penderyn, or a depending on mood. Penderyn smooth, Lefroy peated, or quarter cask if we're really, or a Dalwhinnie, or perhaps a Johnny Walker, or English Whiskey Company. I do like others, but those are the ones I would probably choose first.
Means our National Health Service is already struggling to cope. Bed occupancy levels are at 94%, and hundreds of our most vulnerable people are being treated on trolleys in corridors.
That's because they've got no space, yo. It's probably why they want to invest more money in that whole expanding hospital thing, which isn't happening as fast as everyone likes. Tentacle Daddy Lover, I believe. You need more rum. Everyone needs more rum.
What additional funding will our overstretched and underfunded NHS be given to deal with this crisis?
Right, so this is a reference to the fact the government has said it will invest record levels, something Boris will say in a moment. He wants more, which I understand. I totally respect it. You need more money to make it better or to maintain what we have or possibly give it the numbers it's supposed to have. Boris believes the amount going in is enough. Others will say otherwise. NHS financial specialists or analysts will say it's not enough, and then they'll give a bogus reason, which will mostly come down to how much bureaucracy is being charged for how much and how much they're paying for it. And let's not forget here, actually Shannon Vlogs correctly puts it in the chat. Hospitals run near capacity during flu season, and I believe, aren't we at near the tail end of that? Although I'd like to believe at the moment, based on temperatures, this is a belated winter. Because I sure as feck didn't feel this during December. Not that I noticed the cold too much, but my fingertips did pay attention for a brief moment. By fingertips, I mean tentacle tips. I'm just giving you something to work with. And I've got some peanut butter whiskey. Dibs. The nuttiness is alright, actually. Mine's actually peanut butter and jam, but you just can't tell where the jam is. I genuinely, with the cleanest palate I could possibly get, I couldn't find the jam.
Mr. Speaker, as the right honourable gentleman knows, this government has put in record funding into the NHS, and we've pledged that we will give them everything they need to cope with the crisis. I think it might be for the advantage of the right honourable gentleman and the House if I update the House on where we are with the coronavirus outbreak. And as
We are gonna die. I believe that is where we are at this present moment, which, hello Maximilian Robespierre, hope you're well. I think the panic is too much and it needs to stop because it's getting embarrassing. And I should say, people wearing those masks. See, when I saw people wear them in the past, like you see pictures of people in Japan or in China wearing them, I often thought it was because of pollution levels. That's what I thought it was about. And I believe actually to an extent there were some issues with certain diseases. And then I thought, how are you stopping it? I mean, you're stopping more getting to you, but it's still there. And then I've seen more and more people around here wearing them. And I'm sat back thinking, you're a mug. This is not going to help you. It really isn't. Although I will say, some of those masks do look quite nice. But unless your intention is to produce ice from your fingertips, I'm not really interested. And think you just look like a fool. In fact, if everyone could do me a favour and just, I don't know, cosplay as Scorpion, I'd really like it. Has Boris stopped shaking hands? He never stops shaking hands. I don't know if he washes his hands afterwards.
yesterday's plan made clear, we're not at the point yet where we are asking large numbers of people to self-isolate, but that, of course, may come if large numbers of people have the symptoms of coronavirus. And if they stay at home, the House will understand that they are helping to protect all of us by slowing the spread of the virus. And that's what the best...
I would like to point out there's even a better way of slowing it down. It's called putting a plastic bag over your head and being caught in the streets wearing it. There's your cure, I guess. It can't spread. Ian Houston, time to go to work. Am I going to have a great stream? Thank you very much for the £5 donation. I'm really very grateful for that. Enjoy work, by the way. By the way, I'm not now saying go put a bag on your head. I'm just restating what I said earlier with people actually doing it and me believing it to be a form of natural selection and not the, I'll say it one last time for effect, coronavirus. I still can't believe that's trending on Twitter, by the way. Seriously. Closest I've got to... Oh, right. Really? Fair enough.
Scientific evidence tells us. If they stay at home, if we ask people to self-isolate, they may lose out financially. So I can today...
Actually, you have now raised the point I was going to get to about the... Yeah. Okay, so there's a type of employment in this country. My last proper full-time job was this. I was full-time, but I had a 0-hour contract. I didn't get benefits. I got a holiday because it was mandated, but otherwise I didn't get anything. No sick pay. You don't get that because you're not a full-time employee. Those people lose out and they don't get anything. And that's... I don't like 0-hour contracts. I've hated them since they started. And I don't care to blame who originally created those. I don't care. They have no place. They're of no use. People say, oh, cheap labour and blah. But actually, it's not really, is it? Because those on 0-hour contracts are typically hired by an agency. They more than likely cost more to get because they're easier to get rid of. They're more expensive than somebody who's on a contract. The only difference is the benefits that come with having a contract. I don't really care for any of it. Shannon, the masks can help to a certain extent, but you have to dispose of them properly, and probably the addition of protective eyewear would be prudent as well. That's a point. I have seen a guy queuing up, I believe I saw it in Stratford, in McDonald's, because we had to go find somewhere to sit to eat. I think my sisters had Greg's or something. And I saw a guy with a pair of ski goggles on and a full-on Sub-Zero mask. Is there a cat at my window? I do apologise. I'm going to check. Let's find out. Meow. Meow, meow, meow. Come on. Come on. Over here. That's it. Meow, meow. Come on. Come on. There you go. it's wet. It must be raining out there. You're wet. Do you want to go warm up? Okay. Bye. Okay. Sorry. That was Tilly, everyone, for those who are interested. For those who know my cats. Yeah, so as far as... by the way, I would... Honestly, I cannot abide, I cannot tolerate, I cannot stand 0-hour contracts. I'm self-employed because when I had a chance to get a job on like the last day of the work program I was on, it was for a 0-hour contract again. The company that makes the very fancy and elaborate boxes for whiskies and other things. Like, oh, this is your skill set. I look at my CV. MSc in chemistry. Level 4 engineer. Fixing cell phones. Huh. But you think I can glue a box together? Wow! And I rejected it in favour of self-employment. It took a few years, but we got there. I did better than I bloody well would have done if I'd gone down that route anyway.
Announce that the Health Secretary will bring forward, as part of our emergency coronavirus legislation, measures to allow the payment of statutory sick pay from the very first day you were sick instead of 4 days under the current rules.
So I'd like to now know if you're gonna include this for 0-hour contracts, because I have to side with those who are stuck like this. Oh, geez. I'm very sorry to hear that, Max. I really am. I can't. No. I hope that this hysteria ends soon, because it's just not fair to people. And it's not fair in the sense of it's entirely panic, and it's just stupid. Just stop it. Go back to work. It's pathetic.
And I think that's the right way forward. Nobody should be penalised, Mr. Speaker, for doing the right thing.
Sadly, Prospero, my education is irrelevant now. And I walked away from academia years ago. Perhaps I'll retell that story someday. What about those on universal credit? Yeah, that I think Corbyn might mention that actually.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the Prime Minister for that, but I want to ask him a couple of more questions on this subject.
A couple of more? Okay.
Is it true, as has been reported, that police forces are likely to become so overstretched by coronavirus that 999 response times will have to be extended and that even investigations into some murders will have to be halted as a result of this?
Hey, James, I hope you get the job, by the way. I want to set up the police thing. I don't know where he's got that from. It is I assume it sounds like another one of those impact assessments where they come up with the worst case scenarios, and that's one of them. That doesn't sound plausible. It's a case of, someone's thought about it, put it out there, and because they might be in a position of authority, it sounds accurate. The police are stretched thin anyway. How is this, which has affected very few people, very few of very few of very few of very few people, going to stretch them even further? What are they going to do? Come beat you with a taser? Oh, he's got the coronavirus! Tase the fucker! What? Honestly? You're going to accuse him of carrying a knife and then just stab him because? I just don't get it. I'm perhaps taking a stab in the dark because I really don't know where this comes from.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we are not at that stage or anything like that stage yet. Our police forces, he knows, our police forces are well able to cope with all types of eventualities, and they have long-standing arrangements to prepare them for such pressures.
Fucking the meth thing. When I first moved back here in 2012, Breaking Bad was very popular and people loved it, especially the junkies around here, and they found out I had an MSc in chem. And their first thing was, "Oh, mate, can you make a meth, mate? Can you make some meth? Oh, can you make some blue meth?" No. So I actually tend to agree with Max. The concern should not be the police, it should be the NHS. Especially with what they're going through currently, it is better to prioritise the NHS. No offence, Bobbies, but blue lives don't matter? I am being sarcastic, of course. Honestly.
Mr. Speaker, under this government, there are 2 million workers on low pay, many of them women in the care sector.
Of course care's underpaid. I've talked about this so many times. My sisters have careers in care. They have diplomas and degrees, well, not even degrees. They have NVQs that are higher ranked than my degrees. They are overpaid and overworked and underpaid. I wish they were overpaid. I really do. They are overworked and underpaid. It is a really unnecessary and unfortunate consequence. I don't know how you resolve it, though. Because can you really put a price on what they do? It sucks that they're completely underpaid and they're always mistreated and they're always abused and they always suffer. I don't know how to resolve it, though.
Who are not eligible for statutory sick pay at the present time.
Yeah, you should have mentioned the 0-hour contract as well. I know you mentioned underpaid, but you focused on women there. And I assume that's because you're charging in a direction of discrimination when it's not.
The Prime Minister's statement just now it's not clear whether it covers them or not. And those on Social Security could face sanctions if they miss appointments, and therefore they and their families will face terrible hardship. When the Prime Minister
Obviously, thank you for stating that.
brings forward the emergency legislation, will he guarantee that workers' right to sick pay from day one, as he's just indicated, will apply on statutory sick pay?
I'd like to know which sectors it applies to and what type of employee it applies to as well. Because you've got to think, if they don't, if in their contract there is no sick pay referenced, then they're not, are they? But then people say the government should anyway, but they can't. But then who do you then go to blame? Because that's what normally happens, isn't it?
Will apply to all claimants and those people that are not currently eligible for statutory sick pay, therefore will have to make a terrible choice between health and hardship.
Well, the Right Honourable Gentleman is raising a very important point, and of course we are very much aware
Press F in the chat for the crumpets, please.
of the issues faced by the self-employed on those on 0 hours contracts. I should stress that some of them will be entitled to statutory sick pay.
Oof. Well, I'd like to tell you this now. I am not entitled to any of that. You say some, I would love to know who those some are. Would they be those who work perhaps as subcontractors to the government? Perhaps? Because I can't think of any sector where someone who is self-employed, that's it. That's for you, Priscilla. All those Fs are for you. Can you think of any sector where this could apply? Honestly. It's a nonsensical thing. But then I know someone will say it's unfair, but then I fully understand I'm self-employed. I am not entitled to benefits. It's why I don't go on holidays. I cannot afford to take a holiday. A consequence of the life I chose. In place of a life where I was in constant fear of being fired. I think I chose better.
Others, a great many, others will be entitled to help through the existing systems such as universal credit. And we are urgently looking at the application.
I would say, no, I doubt. I'd love to know how your battle plan, no offence, Boris, but I'd love to know how your battle plan will very quickly get on board with this. Are you affected by this IR35 bollocks? Hang on, wait. IR35, give me a second. I actually don't know what that is. Let me go look. IR35. Collect additional payment where contractor is an employee in all but name. No. Yeah, no. No, I'm absolutely safe. We're all good. All good. But thank you for telling me that, because that gave me a second to go and look. And I appreciate that greatly. Oh, and before I forget, smash like. I don't believe those on Universal Credit can benefit from this in the slightest. I'm not convinced. My sisters were discussing this earlier because they're on it. And, yeah, this does not help them in the slightest. And I'd love to know how he could implement something that quickly to help anyone that does receive it. And I'd assume he's trying to imply those who are on it that also work. Which then would mean, surely, more paperwork, more hassle to get it done. I could be wrong, but yeah.
Process to reflect on the advice on self-isolation. But
I heard about self-isolation from the Channel 4 news presenter. Is it Jon Snow? Is that who it is? And when I heard he'd done that, I sat back and went, wait, are you telling me he was supposed to be at work, but he decided, just in case, to take some unpaid holiday and just go sit in his bedroom? Sounds to me like he's getting extra sleep, the cheeky bastard.
I think the members of the public have appreciated the way hitherto that I think the members have come together across the floor of this House to deal with this crisis. And I think it would be common ground between us all that we want to do everything we can to avoid penalising those who are doing the right thing.
Sounds like a lot of empty words. No offence to Boris on this one, but I'm not entirely convinced this could work. And it's correct, yeah, you need a waiver or something. I don't see how that could work. Especially in the short space of time required, considering the disaster of the rollout of Universal Credit in the first place. And I say disaster as a whole. Obviously, it hasn't affected everyone negatively the same way, but it has affected a lot negatively. I'm not convinced that you could implement something to help those deal with the dreaded hashtag coronavirus. Is it still trending? I'm going to have a quick look. Give me a moment. Let's see if it's still trending. To Twitter! Twitter, right. The hashtag coronavirus is gone. It's okay, though, because I saved it on my Discord gay ops server that I do my work on. Hashtag coronavirus. I'm not even kidding. Type that into the Twitter search, and yeah. Coronavirus. Cool. Back to the video, though.
Speaker, the Prime Minister is not being clear about this. The reality is, if you're on Universal Credit or just put onto it, you've got a 5-week wait before you get any benefits.
Not entirely true, but it is true in some cases, I believe, because they did speed it up, if I remember correctly. Toilet paper, yes, I saw that, because isn't there a shortage? Which is fine, because I kind of went ahead and decided just to buy all of it. I did notice the cologne virus, the moron virus, sure, I call it all that. I noticed Poundland still has some of the £1 bog rolls. I think that they've got them still reduced, some of them from Christmas. Yeah, they've just gone. What was that? I must have been a Twitch alert. Maximilian Rosebud, don't mean to hijack the stream. What's your opinion on the Democratic primary? If I've heard correctly, I believe that Biden might win, which, I'll be honest, Trump's going to beat Biden. I believed 4 years ago the greatest threat to Trump was Sanders. I still believe of the options available, he is the best option. But the Democratic Party aren't doing themselves any favours, so I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen. Unless Biden's won it now, in which case Trump just won 2020, I guess. I might go and buy the political... what's that political game on Steam? Political Machine, I think it's called. I've got one of the versions of it. I'm going to quickly look, because I've actually got a voucher to buy the 2020 version. Oh, it's called the Political Machine 2020, because I own the Political Machine for 2016, and I did a Cthulhu 2016 video with it. I might do one for 2020. because it's funny. Oh, there's lots of primaries yet to go. I didn't know that. I barely understand your system. But I heard that Biden did really well. My apologies for not being so informative or knowledgeable. And I do think Trump's going to beat Bernie. I still thought he was the better threat in 2016. He might still be now. I don't know. I haven't paid enough attention to your politics. I do apologise to those who would expect me to know more. I just don't. But I may make it a point to look at it tomorrow, so I'm a bit more informed for Friday, because I don't want to be going into it with just Trump's talking for half an hour about America and me not knowing anything.
Will he be absolutely clear that nobody will have to choose between health and hardship? Because it's a matter of public health concern for everybody.
While that is a really interesting question, I would point out that sometimes people can be healthy and in hardship, and sometimes people can be in hardship and unhealthy. It's I don't know, it's a very odd one. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about it wrong. I don't know.
Mr. Speaker, our part-time Prime Minister failed to turn up on Monday to answer a question about a breach of the ministerial code.
Here we go. Right. This could get interesting.
In his own foreword to that code, the Prime Minister wrote, there must be no bullying and no harassment.
Right. So people latched onto this expression on Priti Patel's face because she smiled and smirks a lot. She always has done. I'm not even kidding. I've rarely seen a time where she hasn't had a smile or smirk on her face, and it just comes across as very arrogant. I don't find it endearing in the slightest. I've seen some of you in the chat say you would do things with her. Congratulations. Get consent first, please. Dibula, I tend to think he probably was a threat more then, and I don't know about now. I haven't paid attention to him. Part-time PM is a nickname that's going to stick. It's going to stick. But Priti Patel has not done herself any favours. However, I would argue some of the questioning in this is wrong. And I do want to point it out, along with something I do agree with on Jeremy about, because there's a policy in place I don't agree with in the slightest.
Will he now commit to an independent investigation?
Count Dibula, Priti Patel is the current Home Secretary. She's in charge of, the country. More than Boris, arguably. She was once, was it International Development Secretary, I think it was? Was it International Business? She was in charge of a previous department under Theresa May, and she got removed because she'd had secret meetings with Israeli people, heads or something. And that was wrong, because, I don't know why she felt the need to do it quietly and discreetly, but she did, and it got her into trouble. And Boris put her in his cabinet because she supported him.
Into the Home Secretary's conduct, led by an external lawyer, and commit to a date when its findings will be made public.
I agree with this. When, what's his name, Sir Philip Rutnam made his statement, and it being so open, I was a tad concerned, because it was an outright statement of, I've been bullied. No joke. Swear down, fam. I've been bullied by Priti Patel. And then more and more came out. Now, we shouldn't, of course, act on he said, she said, which is why I fully support an external body reviewing this and investigating it. I fully... yeah, you got a point, actually. Max is right. I tend to think that somebody else has to investigate it. It should not be done internally, because that doesn't resolve this. But it can be done internally, so it kind of, gets swept. Yeah, which I don't agree with, because more's coming out and it's not helping. Boris supports Priti Patel in this, and that's fine, but an investigation needs to take place, and it needs to be public. Tulsi is your political crush. Interesting. Very interesting.
Mr. Speaker, of course, though, it's right that there should be an investigation into any allegations of bullying. That's what the Cabinet Office is doing, and that's what Sir Alex Allen will, of course, be doing. But I just remind him, since he mentions...
Because it's done by the Cabinet Office, that's where the issue arises. That is not an independent, nor is it an unbiased body. Let's go with that. It needs to be done by and conducted by an outsider. But that's where people don't want it to happen, because then that means more people scrutinising the government. And people don't, and certainly people within government won't like that. Who is the man on the right of Corbyn? I will tell you when I see him if I know who he is, but I don't think I do know who he is.
The Home Secretary,
Let's
that she is keeping this country safe by putting in...
You don't need to boost her ego, mate. Just focus on the question, man.
record numbers of police officers. She believes in stopping the early release of offenders. And
I tend to agree with this one for the extreme offences, especially those who have shown zero sign of reform, and you've just decided, let's send them out. Twice you've done that. You do it a third time, you're a mug.
she's bringing in a system to tackle our migration crisis with an...
You mean the Australian points system that comes into effect next year? Okay. I think it's the day after we leave the EU, in fact.
Australian-style points-based system. He would scrap stop and search. He believes...
Well, stop and search has been scrapped in places like London. Some believe it needs to be brought back because of the rise in knife crime. I do believe that in that case it really should be less of a... It does deserve scrutiny. You're quite right, Prospero. I totally agree with you. In fact, then those people also need to be scrutinised, and then those... In fact, I think we should just do away with government and just put one person at the top. How about a monarch? I'm kidding. I'm just being a dick. I forgot what I was going to say.
Believes in getting rid of our...
Oh, yeah, he's attacking Corbyn. Please stop doing that.
Security service.
Stop and search. That was it, wasn't it? In London, the issue is compounded because people think it's entirely racially motivated. Forgetting here the vast majority of those crimes are being committed by people of a particular race because of certain communities, because of certain segregation that's taken place, because... And then insert all the reasons until you get to the very root cause. How about we just take stop and search and reintroduce it for a while? How about we do that? Because it deals with an issue. If people take offence to it, how about they grow up? Not rocket science. Yeah.
And he certainly wouldn't tackle our immigration system, Mr. Speaker.
He would tackle it. If I remember correctly, because I mentioned today his issues wanting to be a shadow foreign secretary, it would make sense that, everyone can come here. There's nothing wrong with that. We can handle it. I'm obviously doing reductio ad absurdum, of course I am. I do apologise for those who think I'm being serious. Corbyn doesn't have a solid immigration policy because he's so neutral on that one. Unlike that issue, he believes in open borders but kinda doesn't at the same time. He's contradicted himself a number of times with his own past as a Eurosceptic.
Jeremy Corbyn! It's about whether he will release the findings of an investigation into the Home Secretary's behaviour.
I doubt that will happen if the Cabinet Office are involved.
I repeat to him, a government cannot be judge and jury over its own conduct.
I agree with that statement. Because at this point, because it's so public, it's no longer something that a party can deal with. Oh, we got this, fam. We got this. There's bullying happening. Don't worry. We'll just get rid of them, okay?
There has to be an independent element to that investigation. Overnight, Mr. Speaker, further allegations have emerged that the Home Secretary repeatedly harassed and humiliated her private secretary while she ran the Department for International Development.
Yep.
If this is true, this suggests a shocking and unacceptable pattern of behaviour across 3 government departments. On each occasion, tens of thousands of pounds of hard-earned taxpayers' money has been spaffed up the wall to buy their silence.
Yeah, there was a case noted today to have cost in the region of about 25 grand. I'm just like, these are going to stack up, and while the Cabinet Office says it will deal with it, it won't. Priti Patel is far too, I'm going to say powerful, Because she really is. She's the Home Secretary. That is a huge position. That and the Chancellor are the two I'd be most concerned about if the government was in control of, as in the Prime Minister in control of, and not letting them do their jobs. But Priti Patel is in alignment with Boris. There's no real issue there. Spaffed up. Spaffed is a terrible word, by the way.
Was the Prime Minister
spaffed,
aware
that's a bad
of
word.
these allegations? And if he was, why did he appoint her?
Mr. Speaker, I'm really going to repeat the point I just made. The Home Secretary is doing an...
And yes, I'm very much aware of the irony. I'm sure it's lost on him when it comes to investigating. Thank you for mentioning it, actually, Prospero, because I'd actually forgotten for a second.
outstanding job. I have every confidence in her. If there are allegations, of course, it is right that they should be properly investigated by the Cabinet Office, and that is what is happening. But I take no lessons about bullying, Mr. Speaker, from the leader of a party where female MPs were bullied so badly in the matter of anti-Semitism they actually left the party, and where the Shadow Chancellor has still not apologised for his call for a member of our party to be lynched.
I forgot to find out who that guy next to Corbyn is. Let's have a look.
The Prime Minister...
I don't know who that is. Does anyone know who this gormless person here is? I actually don't know who that is. I would go and get a picture of the Shadow Cabinet and have a look, but I can't be bothered.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister said if there are allegations. Is he completely unaware of all the allegations that have been made over the last few days? Is he completely unaware of the resignation of a permanent secretary because of his treatment by the Home Secretary? Mr. Speaker, we have a part-time Prime Minister who barely turns up but is determined...
That's not Richard Bergen. That can't be. I thought Bergen was a bigger guy. Let me check. I'm going to quickly check, because I'm pretty sure Richard Bergen is a bigger person. Well, let's have a look. Yeah, no, it's not him. I checked. I thought it was somebody... Yeah, Bergen's a bigger bloke, like, fatter. Unless Bergen's lost... I'm going to say about 100 pounds in weight, and this is the obvious one, his hair's gone from black to brown. Because Bergen has got black hair. Yeah, and he's porkier. Maximilian, if you know who he is, please let me know. I'm actually going to look, screw it. Labour Shadow Cabinet. Let's have a look. Who's in the Shadow Cabinet? Shadow Cabinet of Jeremy Corbyn. That does not help. That's got Kate Ossomer. That does not help. Pictures. Burnham. No. Lewis. No, this is not him. Oh, it's a Re-16. I can't be bothered. Sorry, guys. I can't be. Lenin, Stalin, or Mao. Sure. Is it Dan Carden? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. It is. No, it is not Dan Carden. No, that can't be him. Or is it? No, it is, I think. Okay, his parliamentary picture, if it is him, does him no favours, but I can't... Huh. It might be, but I don't know. That's interesting. That's not Diane Abbott on the left. Okay, because the picture of Dan Carden doesn't look like him. I can't tell. Sorry, I'm just gonna move on because I can't be sure. Okay.
To cover up for bullies in his government. There can't be one rule for workers across this country and another one for him and his ministers. When his Home Secretary has been accused of repeated bullying and harassment, leading to hard-working staff attempting suicide by overdose, he gave her his full support. How can the people of this country have faith in a Prime Minister who can't be bothered to turn up, and when he does, has no shame in defending bullying in his own government?
First of all, part-time Prime Minister part, yeah, it's got a point to that. But you can't assert bullying until it is proven. You can't assert it, Jeremy. You're now trying to sow the seeds of distrust, and you did it during the election, and you were summarily annihilated.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that is the question from a full-time neo-Marxist who's...
By the way, I believe that is Dan Carden, based on a few other pictures I've been looking at. But it was very tricky, because some of those parliamentary pictures don't do him favours. Like a jowl, I can't quite tell.
Who's failed to stamp out bullying in his own party, and actually I'm very proud, as I say, of the record of this government just over the last 82 days. We've taken back control of our borders, our laws and our money. We've got Brexit done. We've set out a new points-based immigration system. We've put more money into people's pockets through the biggest ever increase in the living wage. We've guaranteed more funding for schools by increasing the minimum funding.
Yeah, Flex, fantastic. Let's move on to the paper pervert. I want the paper pervert. Let's get him. Where is he? There he is. It's paper pervert time, everyone. I don't remember if he asked decent questions, by the way. Let's...
This government is leading Europe and the world in tackling climate change.
See you later, Robespierre. Thanks for being here, man.
Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and like the Prime Minister, I note the 2-year anniversary of the terrible attack in Salisbury, and it's important on these matters and other crises that we face, such as coronavirus, where appropriate, that we do stand together. Mr. Speaker, coronavirus is causing deep and genuine concern across society. We know that up to 80% of the population are at risk of infection. All of us.
So... just making my campaign a lot easier. Just saying. I'm kidding. While it is deadly serious that 80% potentially could get it, at the moment, it's has it even reached 0.000001% yet?
Us must provide clear, calm and practical leadership in the days, weeks and months ahead. In the past few days, Scotland's First Minister, the Scottish Government and the Westminster Government have been working closely together to put plans in place to protect all of our people. Yesterday, the Governor of the Bank of England suggested a financial bridge may be available to assist markets through any volatility. If there is a financial bridge for markets, can the Prime Minister tell us, will there be a financial bridge for all workers and indeed those that rely on benefits that should not risk the threat of sanction if they can't make appointments?
That is arguably the best question I've ever heard him ask. No joke. I've never heard him genuinely ask such a decent question by comparison to his previous ones before. Come on.
Well, I thank the right honourable gentleman for the excellent cooperation that Scotland, indeed all the devolved administrations, have given in preparing the battle plan. And yes, and ready to recapitulate my answer to the right honourable gentleman, we will take every step that we can to ensure that businesses are protected, that the economy remains strong, and that no one, whether employed or self-employed, whatever the status of their employment, is penalised.
And yes, Dibula, Corbyn asked it first, but I don't think it mattered because it gave Blackford a chance to talk about how Scotland's working with everyone else on this, and also not talk about Brexit for once.
For doing the right thing.
Blackford.
Well, I thank the Prime Minister for that answer, and I commit my party and our government in Scotland to work constructively together. Of course, people are worried about their health, but there are millions of workers who are worried about the consequences for their incomes, their job securities and their families. What I do ask is that the Prime Minister gives specific guarantees, and certainly we will work together with the SNP in pushing for emergency legislation, but clarification that all workers will be fully protected from the first day of sickness, and that those payments should be up to the level of the real living wage. Hear, hear. And emergency legislation to guarantee that staff that are asked to self-isolate and their businesses are fully supported. That is the leadership that is required, and I ask if the Prime Minister will commit himself to working constructively with all of us to that end.
Well,
Again, another somewhat, I'll be honest, okay question considering what we usually have to deal with here. Clearly, coronavirus, and yes, I've said it one last time, has affected Scotland so much that he has to be a bit more, careful.
And I thank the right honourable gentleman for the spirit in which he raises the question. He will have seen from my earlier answer that what we are indeed doing is advancing the day on a temporary basis, advancing the day by which you are eligible for statutory sick pay from the pay from the fourth day to the first day. I think that is the right thing. And again, I repeat, we will support business. We will make sure that we keep the economy strong. No one should be penalised for doing the right thing. And I'm sure that my right honourable friend, the Chancellor, will be happy to engage you with further conversations with him about the detail of how we propose.
This has all been quite passive, really, hasn't it? I mean, genuinely, that was actually really civil. And that's why I wanted to play it. Because it's a rare treat. I don't think we'll get this frequently, but when we do get it, it's actually all right. There were some good questions from Corbyn. I'll give him that. He did repeat himself a bit. And the bullying, there were aspects of it I agree with, but then he went on to assert, which is not very productive now, is it? Okay. I think we're done here, by the way. I'm actually surprised we went for as long as we did. 56 minutes. Jesus Christ. I am going to go hang with patrons. If you haven't already, please consider smashing the like button. I'd really appreciate it. I'll be back here tomorrow for a video. See ya.